in my talk, I've sort of explained some of the concepts that we're addressing in our lab. We're very much interested in generating a fundamental, basic understanding of the fine-scale processes that structure communities. And we're not just looking at the broad-scale implications. We focus on the mechanisms that are getting there. But we are very much focused on extrapolating that information up so that we can make real global implications that can have impacts for our understanding and our ability to address climate change. And obviously, our approach in doing this, generating this holistic view of the world's forests, is an incredibly interdisciplinary type of thing. We use understanding of Earth system dynamics to better understand how all the different global change drivers will explain the balance of carbon in every pixel around the world. And we'd like to say things like, understand how the addition of forest to a specific pixel might warm or cool the global atmosphere. But in order to do that kind of research, we're very much we're generating spatially explicit information about the functional biogeography of these important organisms that govern the carbon cycle. And these are very different skill sets than the first. And ultimately, it's all underpinned by very basic community ecology, understanding how diversity is established and maintained and distributed across broad spatial scales. So these combination of approaches provides us with this holistic view. But it's a very different set of approaches. These people are using remote sensing skills and geospatial analyses, whereas the soil biodiversity people are interested in genetic sequencing approaches and culturing. And of course, there's basic community ecology theory and Earth system modeling theory that are all very different disciplines. And this was my concern as we started developing this lab. How was I going to sort of have this interdisciplinarity within our lab? But we've recently partnered with an organization called DOB Ecology, and this is a foundation that sort of shares our vision for this interdisciplinary nature of global scale research. And they're very sort of excited by the prospect of having this interdisciplinary type of lab. And so with their sort of support, we're now establishing sort of 4 groups within our lab. So 2 senior postdocs associated with each of those 4 disciplines, experts in those regions. So it's not necessarily a very top-down lab system where it's a professor with experts in exactly the same topics. We've got a range of experts from all of these different topics communicating with one another and sharing their information so they can get a more holistic understanding of the system. And we're also in the process of recruiting some PhD students associated with each of those groups as well, PhD students and master's students who are working on these kind of topics. So we're in the process of building at the